everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Bodacity Show. I'm your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and today I'm here with the fabulous Brian Kelly. We're going to be talking about automation versus personal connection outreach, which is best. So welcome, Brian. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, Janet, thank you so much. Excited to be here. You're an amazing woman, a phenomenally intelligent entrepreneur, very accomplished, and I'm very excited and humbled that you would have me on your show.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet. And welcome back. You just came back from a vacation yesterday, so I appreciate you being ready to jump right in, especially on holiday. It's Labor Day here. Is it Labor? Is it a holiday there too?
Yes, it is.
All right. So even then, even more. All right. So let me tell you the official scoop on Brian, then we'll find out the juicy tidbits, and then we're going to jump right into our topic. So Brian is an entrepreneur trainer, author, speaker, and automation expert. Peers have named him the automation master. He loves helping others to achieve success. He trains, teaches how to utilize live interview style video shows to saturate the marketplace with your message, which results in making more money in less time and with less effort. Entrepreneurs hire Brian to reach their peak because most do not stand out in the marketplace and fail to attract a steady stream of ideal clients. So he helps them reveal their personal and unique massive exposure machine, free up their time, and create a steady stream of revenue. Bottom line, he helps entrepreneurs establish high-value relationships that will result in high-end connections and joint venture partnerships within 12 months, guaranteed. All right, that's a very provocative word to use. And so tell us now something that we wouldn't guess about you, Brian, that we wouldn't know looking at your bio or hearing about you, all the official stuff.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of was when I was a young buck, I aspired to be a professional baseball player. Went through high school, played there, and then got to community college. We were in a lower middle income family. I was. Didn't have a whole lot of extra spare money to go around, and so needed to have a job during that time while I was going to school. And one of the prerequisites of the manager at that time of the baseball team for that college was that we forbid you to have a job.
Uh,
And that was the end of my career. That was the end of it. I played in an adult league a couple of times after that, but that was kind of child's play, and it was fun. But that was the end. I didn't pursue it any farther, and just said, okay, I'll just concentrate 100% on academics and put that in my rearview mirror.
that's sad, but it's sometimes life has us go in different directions, right? And
Yeah.
and that's too bad. And do you still ever play at all? Do you get out and play with anyone?
No, it's been quite some time. I just turned 58 this past week, and my body's telling me about it every day a little bit. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
do a
hear
whole lot
you.
of quick movements anymore.
That's funny. Okay, well, kind of funny. I hear you on that. It is definitely my experience as well, that things are a little different the older you get. So let's talk about automation versus personal connection. And y'all, how I met Brian was on his podcast, which is one of the I'm going to say slickest, but I don't mean it in a slimy way. One of the slickest podcast automation processes I have ever been through, right from the application through to the reminders, a lot of reminders, to the actual process, which is an hour process, depending on where you are, an hour-long interview. And then he also can create copy and videos and so forth for you afterwards. It's just really set up and automated well. How long did it take you to get all of that set up that way, working that way, and get your podcast notably more automated than almost every other podcast I've been on? How long did that take you?
To get to the baseline, where I would call it a baseline of automation, because I'm refining it every single week. I'm adding more and more to it, as you know personally, because we've been working together on something behind the scenes, which I appreciate your input on. About 2 years, and that was solid every week, working and tweaking, building, refining, correcting. It's a very large, complex system, but now it's all in place, and with the snap of a finger, the entire automation can be dropped into another client's CRM, and it's all set and ready to go with a few things that we need to add on. But I did it with the purpose of scaling, of systematizing, of sharing with others so that we can have almost a plug and play system. There are some things that need that require human intervention, which is always a good thing. I will say that right now because I know what the topic is. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because one of the things that you've, talked about in your description is that are we removing the human element from our day-to-day operations just to earn an extra buck, and at what human cost? Or is there basically a place for automation that results in something positive for all of us? So what is that balance between automation and connection? Because one of the things that I sometimes say these days is that connection is the new currency. So how do we find that balance, and what's your philosophy around that?
yeah, and it's a great topic. I love talking about it because a lot of people are worried that automation is going to take over human jobs. And, I think to an extent it is going to. To an extent, though, I don't think it's going to completely eradicate humans. What I think it's going to do, honestly, is improve each and every one of us because we are going to seek to become a higher version of what we are today and look for new ways to outpace automation. And the good news right now today is that there are so many things that we do, you and I do, Janet, that are repetitive that do not require a human to do them because there's no creative process. When a creative process is involved, that's when you pull the human element into it. We're talking things like sizzle reel videos, meme creation, things that require creativity, that require human thought, that require human emotion. With automation, you are given the opportunity to improve your communication, your quality of your communication. Once you have the automation dialed in, it is forever dialed in. It means it will be error free from that point forward, unless one of the systems in which the automation is running falls apart or has a bad day, which those happen too. But
Mhm.
underlying fact is you can get a lot more done for your business with much less time after the investment is put in to put in the automation in the systems in place. Michael Gerber, everyone I think, or most people know who he is, author of the E-Myth Revisited, said, and this is what hit me between the eyes. This was years ago when I first read it. He said, if you don't have systems in your business, then you have no business. And
Mm.
that got me right here because at that time when he said, or when I read that, that was me. I'm like, oh my God, I better get some systems. So now I have systems both in automation and with humans. I have VAs that are working. I have a team of VAs, and we use SOPs, standard operating procedures, and we train by doing. We simply, one tip for everyone out there is one way to train somebody on how to do what you do is record it. Fire up Loom, fire up Camtasia, record it, speak into the microphone, say what you're doing. If they can't follow those directions, then they're not hireable. But you can develop systems on both sides of the fence, and both are very valuable, very valuable. And you hit the nail on the head that you said connections is a new consistency. I think that's what the way you phrased it.
Currency, new currency.
The new currency, yes, and it's so true. When it comes down to making the sale, that is where, in my humble opinion, that is where a human should be involved, where that connection, that relationship building should occur with an individual. It's very right now. It's very difficult to achieve, and a lot of people are trying to do it through like chat bots and automated response with AI injection. It's getting better, and at some point, maybe it will fool some people. Maybe it already has. But in my humble opinion, that what we're doing right now, face to face, there's no substitute. Even better than that, if possible, meet face to face physically. That would be the ultimate as far as developing relationships, because relationships are the key to a successful business.
Mm. Yep, I totally agree. And automation can support us tremendously. I forgot to ask you right at the beginning, so I'm just going to loop back. Why are you so passionate about this topic? What's your why? Why do you do the work that you do?
Ooh, my wife is my why for everything I do. We met as high school sweethearts, dated exclusively all the way through college, then got married, had 2 kids, and just I will crawl miles over broken glass for her. That's my bottom line why. And I got into automation as I became a career professional. I worked as a software engineer in the defense industry for many years, and I loved software because it gave me the ability through it's actually people don't recognize it, but there's a big art to writing software. You can get the same result in lots of different ways by writing software different ways, but the bottom line is what is the end result. And so there was a lot of creativity involved. Once it's done though, it works and it never stops working unless the data fed in is bad and you you take those things into account and spit them back out and don't let it run through the system. But yeah, software engineering was where I cut my teeth, and I just realized, my God, I love this stuff. I want to be able to automate things that really don't need my involvement. I did this for myself originally. I'm doing these things repetitively. I'm like, God, this is a time suck, and this is like taking all my time, and I don't do it correctly every single time. So I need to refine it and automate it. So I started automating everything I did, everything I touched.
So let's talk about where to start. For most entrepreneurs, automation is a really big topic. It can be very overwhelming. It's not most people's passion like it was yours. So what's really significant or important for entrepreneurs to automate first, or when should they bring in automation?
I would just say when they identify repetitious tasks that that they think possibly could be automated. One thing would be to reach out to someone if they're not sure that knows automation. Ask the question: is this something that could be automated in your humble opinion? And then, if so, and if they're not adept at automating things themselves, just like anything in business, you outsource it. Simple. You find somebody who can do it, who's very good at it. Ask them to help. There's way too much time spent, each of us, on trying to learn a whole new vocation when we should just outsource it, because the time and money wasted because of the time it's taking us to research and learn far outweighs what you could be making on the front end when you outsource to an individual who already knows what they're doing, and you just basically speak what you want done and you go back and forth. I'm working with a client right now. We're doing exactly that, step by step. We have calls all throughout the week, and we just keep building and say, okay, what do you want next? What's your first goal? What you want to. The bottom line is people need and want to make money, so you want to focus on that. As far as automation or any investment of time or resources is involved, focus on what is going to bring you income, so you can then bring on more people, bring on more automation. Automation costs money, just heads up to everyone. Not just for having someone build it for you, but the actual services have a monthly fee or an annual fee. And that adds up if you have a comprehensive system. Like I have a very comprehensive system, and it adds up. Let's just put it that way. So yeah.
Yeah, for the software, for the maintenance, for the integration, for all of those pieces, which is part of why it can be very overwhelming for people and daunting.
Yeah.
So what would you say? So you said repetitive tasks, but there's about 1 million repetitive tasks in business. What if you're just starting out, do you think is or just starting to create infrastructure? What are some of the most important, perhaps marketing tasks to automate? And
Mm.
they be human touch and when should they be automated? Because for
Oh.
instance, you mentioned bots, et cetera, et cetera. When do you think it's really important to have it be you personally doing it? And when can it be automated?
What a great question. That's why I love you so much, Janet. You're awesome. Yes, one great example is generating social media. You need the human, in my humble opinion, to create the social media content, lots of it, lots of different kinds of social media content. Some can be automatically generated, as you've just recently seen, Janet, as we were talking in the back behind the scenes. In addition to that, there are things like memes, like I was talking about before, pictures. Uh, Pictures of you in the picture, not necessarily about you, but a phrase that is something that is in alignment with your values, and then maybe a quick post or blurb on that. Have a human develop a series of those, a big series, and then, as far as automation goes, take all those images and those post text, the text that goes with the post, and automate it by a scheduling program like a Hootsuite or a Peak Connector or something that will be able to schedule the post. So once they're in there, they're ready to go. I had apprentices do this over, gosh, it's been a year and a half ago, and they're still going out today. They did so many of them. And the apprentices are no longer with my company. By design, they worked with me for 90 days and they were gone. It was a program, and they've been gone a long time, but their efforts are still churning out posts day after day for me. That's a one really good example. Then when you get the interaction, when the interaction occurs and it's time to have a chat and maybe get one step or two steps, really get close to the sales call where you're going to ask for their business, that's when you personally should step in. At the very least, at that last step, and possibly one or two prior to that, is when humans should literally get involved. I have humans, VAs. I keep calling them humans. It's so funny. I would have VAs handling a lot of the back and forth on social media. When it gets to a point where that VA realizes, oh, it's time for Brian to step in, they alert me, and then I step in. And then I will tell them, I'm up front. I say, hey, you got some messaging back and forth that I just want to let you know that was one of my VAs, but now you're talking to me, right? So
Right.
I like to be upfront about it. So they go, oh, well, I appreciate that.
Right.
There's no need to hide behind what's going on. If it's a bot, I don't typically use bots for that kind of communication. I use it. I don't even use chat bots. I'm thinking specifically of Facebook DMs, but I do use automation for, as you specified earlier, for communication, leading to, for my guests who come on my show, leading up to the show, making sure they're prepared, because it's all about, from my standpoint, it's all about them being put in the brightest light possible, and I want them to have the highest quality experience as possible. So that's why there's so much prep work and reminders going into it, so that to ensure at least we did our part to help them to achieve the greatest outcome when it came to their show.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I mentioned earlier lots of reminders and so forth. I think that really is important if you're doing, whether you're reminding people about coaching calls, or you're reminding people to be on your webcast or your podcast, or even just reminding people about appointments that you have. It it really helps if there's a lot of them, because we get so much noise now. It can feel like it's too much, but it really does help people set them up for success and make sure that you're not wasting your time waiting for no shows and so forth. So tell us a couple of programs that you use, because I know a lot of what you do is custom, or that you have developed technology as well. But what are some of the, again, when people are starting out and they want to automate, for instance, let's say email responses, what are some, I know there's a million different solutions, and it really depends, but what are some of the technologies that you've come across that are really good for first timers or people who are scaling to look at and make sure they've got in place?
Yeah, and before I mention the actual tool I use, and I will, uh, just be sure that you put down, for those of you listening, watching, take notes on this. There are 5 criteria that I go by when I look at a new tool. 5 criteria, and everyone should run this by as your litmus test, as you're considering whether or not to bring that tool into the fray. So, first and foremost, this one may sound obvious, but it must work. That's number one. And I laugh because there are some that actually don't work well. That I'm not going to name them by names. I'm not here to smear anybody, but it's very important. It's very obvious. I get that it must work. It also, number two, must be user friendly. What does that mean? There must be ease of use. There must be ease of navigation. Why? Because you may be the one starting out using it, but always from day zero, have it in your mind that you're going to pass these duties on to someone else, a VA. So it must be user friendly for everybody involved. So there's got to be some level and degree of user friendliness, meaning ease of use. It must have, in my opinion, flexible pricing, and many have done this now, where you can either pay monthly or annually, and at least that way you can start out monthly, kick the tires, make sure it works, and then upgrade to annual, because you save some money that way. And this one's big. Number 4 is stellar. It must have stellar support. Support is so key. How many times, I mean, we've all been there. How many times have you gotten into something, you can't figure it out from the get-go, you go to support and you don't hear back for 2 days. By the time they respond, you're like, I don't remember what I asked. So must have stellar support with great responsiveness. And the other thing, this is the 5th, very, very important. It must be highly integratable. What does that mean? One of the first things I look at on any new tool that I am examining that has automation built in is it listed as an integration in a service called Zapier? And if it's not, it's very highly likely I'm going to go a different direction, because I need to be able to pass data between disparate services, different services across the board. And so with those 5 criteria in mind, my go-to for everything is the first thing I log into every morning. It's called Peak Connector, peakconnector.com. And we'll talk about near the end of the show, I'm guessing, a way you can get it at a deep, deep discount. And it's everything for me. I used to use a lot of different tools, Active Campaign, 10 to 8, and these are all good tools, so I'm not saying anything negative about them whatsoever. and what was the other one? There was Wufoo Forms, and there was just a combination of and others that Peak Connector, the first one I've ever used that successfully integrated all the functionality, and it worked. There was
Mm.
one other company, again, I'm not going to name the name, but they tried to put everything. I think the kitchen sink was thrown in as well. Every functionality you could possibly uh, imagine. And I joined their beta, and literally not a single one of them worked properly. And that was in beta. It's been years since then, and I still hear to this day people complaining about the fact that it's a horrid service. So just be sure to do your homework. Reach out to someone who's been in the industry. You can reach out to me. I love talking about this and helping people with it. But just be sure. So Peak Connector would be my number one. Number two is Zapier, because you'll need that to then integrate with anything that Peak Connector does not currently integrate with directly. And not any, there's no one tool that will. Zapier is the closest to basically put, I call it the glue between two services, and it's two or more, you can pass them down a chain. But yeah, you got my geek moving, Janet. I want to go too down the rabbit hole on this, but that's a really great question. Yeah, I would, no matter what tool you end up choosing, whether it's Peak Connector or something else, just please make sure it fits those 5 criteria. It'll save you a boatload of anguish, time, money. Oh my gosh, all of it rolled up into one.
And I think the tip on the service is really important. People kind of think, well, it's not that big a deal. But so, for example, with Kartra, which I use for my back end for a lot of different things, you have to submit tickets. You can't actually get in touch with a real person live, which means there's response time. Often there's quite a delay, and I cannot have my technical person contact them. Only I can. They will only email me, which means that every time Lyndon needs to make a change or do something, or do something that requires their service, it all has to go through me, which slows it down even more. So make sure that you can assign people to the service desk if you have people helping you with technical support, and that they'll work with them. The other piece around that is, and I don't know if this is the software that shall not be named, but don't buy a big system because people tell you should, or because the guy who's selling it does a really good job at an event you're at, because often they are too big and too complex for where you're at. You do tend to want to pick and stick, because every time you change and move your data and so forth, it's expensive and frustrating and challenging. But I do not know how many entrepreneurs like me have spent thousands of dollars on Infusionsoft, never used it, never got any value out of it because it was too big, too complex for where I was at when I started. Way too much training, way too much learning curve, and way more than I needed. And so just like, some people in their gym memberships, we often pay for software that we never use. And that's not a good idea. So make sure that it is appropriate to what you can use and manage. And even if you have someone else doing it for you, you still need to know the basics. You still need to know how that system works so you can instruct them, so you can ask them, so you can figure out what's going on there. There's lots of things that we just weren't sure whether or not Kartra could do. So I had to get my technical person to do a lot of research and so forth. So you really want to make sure that it's something you understand, and ideally can go in and do quick little changes yourself, because you want to delegate as much as you can, but you also don't want that to delay you on something. So great advice, great criteria, and don't step over that criteria is really critical. You can waste a lot of time and money if you don't apply those 5 criteria to everything that you're using. And one of the best ways to find that out is go into the software's chat or community service, community chat groups. They have many of them. There's also going to be lots of reviews online about them, and ask people, what's your experience working with them? Are you getting good responses, etc. So because it is a big investment of time, money, and effort, and you want to make sure that you've done your due diligence on it. So great advice, Brian. I just want to underscore, because I know how much time and money I've spent on trying to get things that work that I just thought would automatically be, work, but they don't. So and the Zap is very important. So for instance, Stripe doesn't integrate with Kartra. You would think as a major payment platform it would, but it doesn't. So you have to use a Zap. Um, or sorry, QuickBooks. QuickBooks won't integrate with, so we have to use a Zap. So you got to make sure that you can do that. Otherwise, you're paying people to code, and that gets very expensive, locked into proprietary. So yeah, really, really important topic. Really, lots to think about and know. One of the things you said that I really want to underscore is ask someone who loves this. Find a lovely geek that you can bounce ideas off of, and it's worth hiring someone just to help you really kind of wrap your brain around what do I need at the stage I'm at, and how can I set that up so that it can grow with me and I can add what I need as I go. So it's good to have someone who has a systems overview perspective, not just an application salesperson. Because just like financial planners, they'll sell you the mutual funds they know, but they don't necessarily look at the whole big picture. So you need someone who is a systems person like Brian, who can look at that big picture and help you figure out overall what do you need. So Brian, your gift is the Reach Your Peak Club with massive discounts on tools and services that entrepreneurs need. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that came as a result of a relationship I made with another business who has themselves a direct relationship with Zoom, which we're on right now. And basically, what they offer, and now I can offer because I've partnered with them, and they ask that I don't shout this from the rooftops. And so the only way one can access it is through Reach Your Peak Club, which you can get to at reachyourpeakclub.com. It is 100% free membership, but it just keeps, it's not bare naked to the world. You must just opt in, and then you're a member, and you'll get access to it that way. And what is it? So most people are paying for the basic plan. I don't remember what it costs, $16, $17, $20 a month, something like that, so that they're not saddled with that 40-minute time limit that the free plan is. What you can get with this particular plan is the enterprise level, which is the highest. 500-seat webinar, 500-seat meeting, unlimited recording to the cloud, transcription. I mean, everything is in it for the grand total amount of $12.99 a month. So it's less than most people are paying on the basic plan, if not all. And there's no catch to it. I use it. I use it every single day. I do master classes with it. Would love to invite people to that as well for live video. It's just a godsend, and it's not a moneymaker for me. It's a wonderful resource that I get to give back to people like Janet or anyone I run into. Is like, hey, we're using Zoom right now. Would you like to reduce that amount and then get the absolute top tiered result? And it is Zoom. It's like having an upgrade and paying less for it. And so that is why I created it, just to create a login portal. And I went back to the company and said, is this acceptable based on the terms that they laid in front of me? They said yes. I said, okay, then I'll do it this way going forward. Then I started adding other things. Peak Connector is in there. It's normally $4.97 a month. If you go to peakconnector.com, you'll see that. There's no tiered approach. It's all of it. You get it all no matter what, just for one monthly fee. There's no gold, silver, titanium, anything like that. But if you get it through Reach Your Peak Club, it's $97 a month. So you save $400 a month. It's a no-brainer. And this is the tool and system I moved over from that myriad of other tools. It took me literally 1.5 months of focused effort to make that transition. So what Janet said is absolutely true about the time and effort it takes to stand up another new shiny toy. And if you already have implemented systems and you're replacing it, oh my goodness, get ready and be ready. And so it took quite a while, and I kept both of them running until I had it all tested on the other side. There are other things in there, but those are, the other one, if I may real quick, Janet, one of the most important things I discovered in my business that I will never, I was like kicking myself for not doing it sooner, is to get help. I was a solopreneur for years, and I thought that, yes, you can do it all. We're all intelligent beings. We can, but why? Because there's so much more we could be doing that we don't need to be doing. And once I got this agency under my belt and they are now with me as my team, oh my gosh, it has opened up the world. I used to say no to so many things because I didn't have the bandwidth. And I'm like, you know what? Not only can I say yes, but I can actually make some money on this, have my team do it, charge them more than I'm paying my team, and I make money. And I'm basically the traffic cop. I just, put people in places. So that is also inside of Reach Your Peak Club. You'll see that it's a black logo when you log in. Yeah, it's free membership to get in, and it's free. There's no monthly fee. It's 100% free. It's just an access portal to some great stuff.
Beautiful. That's a great gift. Thank you so much, Brian. So that's in the chat there. And if you are watching this later and you don't see the chat notes, then it's a www.reachyourpeakclub.com. And how can people connect with you, Brian? How do they find out more about you?
Yeah, they almost cannot not find me, but yeah, it's so many places. There's Facebook, LinkedIn. It's Brian Carl Kelly if you're looking for the actual name, but you'll see my picture in it. That's a Carl with a C, and that's my username for most anything. Instagram is there. I don't go to Instagram too often. And then I have a live weekly show that you can just go to The Mind Body Business Show, themindbodybusinessshow.com, and you can opt in there. It's free, and you just get notified when our next live show comes on. You can interact with us, win a free trip, a vacation stay. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, there's so many ways to get a hold of me. Just search and you'll find me. It won't be difficult.
Awesome. All right. So, like you mentioned there, he's got a really great podcast that's every week, the Mind Body Business Show, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And lots of great guests. I was on it 2, 3 weeks, I don't know, before now, about a month ago. So I highly recommend that you go check that out because he talks to a lot of great entrepreneurs, but in depth. They're really long, 1 hour in-depth shows. So you really get some actual content as opposed to, just something really, really quick. So check that out. And lots of great different topics there as well. So Brian, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, my friend. And what's one last thing you'd like to leave everybody with?
You know, you're gonna be hit with so many naysayers and so many reasons to quit and so many reasons like, you think you got the greatest idea and then all of a sudden you get smacked backward twice in a row, 3 times in a row. The one thing I would just say, if you're passionate about what you're doing, if you believe in what you're doing, then never, ever, 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 ever give up. I can't tell you how many times that thought has gone through my mind, like, gosh, should I continue with this? And then the next week things change and the sky opens up and it's blue again and there's no rain coming down. And just keep with it. No matter, I mean, family can be the hardest on you. The biggest naysayers, they love you. They're just being protective, but they're also unknowingly shattering your dreams or attempting to, and they don't even know it. Just put that aside and say, you know what, I'm going to do this for them. I'm not going to do this in spite of them. I'm going to do this for them. I want to succeed, not to say, look, I succeeded, but look, now I get to help you if you need help financially, whatever the case may be. So just never give up because there are too many people that are depending on you that you may not even be aware of. There are so many people you can serve that you'll be able to help. So don't give up, not just for your own account, but for those who you might be serving in the future for their account.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that tremendously. And please do reach out to Brian if you would like some support with getting clear on how do I start, where do I start, or if you're already down the rabbit hole, I can't get this and this to work together. What should I do about that kind of thing. And I know he'll be happy to help you with the basics, and then you can also hire him to help you really figure stuff out. Like you said, get support. So important. So join us next week when I'm going to be interviewing Scarlett Sabo DeBees. I will get her proper pronunciation next week for sure. And the week after, we have the beginning of, or the first of a series of really cool panel discussions with 4 or 5 experts on each one. And our topic in 2 weeks is 60 Shades of Gray. #not done by a long shot. So if you are an entrepreneur, a fempreneur in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I know women who are starting businesses in their 90s, and you are curious about what other people are doing in that realm, how to stay young and vibrant, how to overcome the invisible prejudice of ageism and sexism that really hits older women entrepreneurs, then by all means come. We're going to be having a lively 1-hour panel discussion on that topic. How do you reinvent yourself in your second or third act, whatever you call this? So please join us for that panel discussion as well. Thank you again, Brian, for being here. Thank you for your passion for helping entrepreneurs really make their life simpler by getting smart about automating and helping to kind of tame that tech noise that can be very challenging for everyone. So again, reach out to Brian. I'll put some of his contact information in the chat. And like he said, you can find him almost everywhere. So just reach out and connect. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I look forward to seeing you all soon on the next Bodacity show. In the meantime, have a bodacious week. Bye bye for now.